We are live, bitches! Happy Sunday, everybody. If you don't know who we are officially the published authors of Be Brand, Your Story, Your Business, Your Way. And our book just went live on Amazon today. And we wanted to do something to commemorate that, to light the torch and really rally all the people around us to support our mission of helping other women tell their stories. So I am actually going to introduce Gabby, who is going to be the moderator for today's conversation. So if you are just joining us live or you are watching this recording, we want to make this short and sweet for you for the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe. Join us, learn from you, from our authors. I'm going to head to the comments and actually put the link to the book, and I'm going to give it to our amazing friend and supporter Gabby to actually moderate this conversation. So I hope that you stick with us for a few minutes, and we love you.
Yay! So excited to hear more and allow these amazing authors to share more about their stories within the book. Let's talk about the book a little bit. So we have Be You Brand, Your Story, Your Business, Your Way. As Ati was saying, it is live on Amazon, 99 cents. Go purchase it, grab your 5-star review, and we are sitting here with some of the authors and contributors to this book. So I want to hear from each of you guys. I would love to start with Jeanette. Jeanette, can you tell us a little bit about your chapter and what influenced you to be a part of this opportunity when Ati presented it to you?
So, hi, Gabby. Thank you for moderating this session. And Ati, thank you to answer the question. It's all due to me being in Ati's world. So I knew that Ati had her Ascension Mastermind, and it's definitely one of those things where I knew I needed to do it for my business, right? It is a great achievement for the business, but I never really realized that it would impact me as much as it did. And I only found that at the end of writing my chapter. And my chapter really is about, it's titled Unlikely, because I honestly felt that I was unlikely to be where I thought I would be in life. The blueprint that my parents had sort of like, subliminally maybe, had before me, and, society basically. And so it's about overcoming those hurdles that seem to keep coming in front of you, and then just being able to move past them. So that's what it's all about. And I talk about a little bit of my school was life, and not necessarily the traditional university, let's say.
Perfect. And I'd also love, maybe we can start off with some introductions for those that are going to be reading your chapters. So maybe if we just all want to go around and give an intro, name your chapter and the work that you do now and how your chapter kind of coincides. Kat, do you want to start us off, and then everyone can kind of go one by one?
Absolutely. I am Kat Coley. I am a storytelling coach, keynote speaker, podcast host, best-selling author, and a columnist as well. And I'm calling you live from Los Angeles. And are we talking about the giving a title?
Give yourself an introduction.
So I'm a storytelling coach, and a lot of that is you'll find in my book and in the chapter in the book, which tells you the reason why I do what I do in storytelling, and why storytelling is so important to me, and why I feel it's important to anyone out there that's creating a business.
What is the title?
I love you. It's Sunday morning. The title of my chapter is Unscripted: Finding Beauty in the Mess. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into what that story is like. It is really finding beauty in all of our messes. I think that there is definitely a diamond in the rough in all of our stories.
Thank you, Kat. Who'd like to introduce themselves next?
I can go.
Go ahead.
I'm Lexi, and I am a licensed clinical social worker and mindset coach. And my chapter is called From Struggle to Strength. And it's very similar to what everyone's actually already saying about theirs, about how I learned that we need a community to grow.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Anything else you want to share about yourselves, like where you're from or anything else about the work you do?
Yeah, well, I'm in Las Vegas. Right now I'm in Nantucket, but so I have a mental health practice in Las Vegas where we focus on women and women's mental health and their unique journeys.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. You want to go ahead, Jeanette?
Yeah, just to round it out, because I already said the title of my chapter is Unlikely. And I'm originally from Guam, but I now live in the south of France, in a village called Cantumer, which is close to Nice. And yeah, and what I'm doing now, I opted out of corporate after 27 years, and I'm a content activation coach. And I help women in business really overcome the content creation barriers so they can finally be seen.
Perfect. Thank you. And Ati, you want to go ahead?
I am looking at this room, and for me, this is what I do. My name is Ati Greenspan. I'm a personal branding coach. I am a podcaster. I'm a speaker. I'm a two-time published author. I'm about to cry, like tears of like craziness, right? Because our whole book, it's about how each of us overcame our own challenges, and we are building businesses and we are running our businesses from the strength that we are grabbing from our stories. My chapter is called Paying It Forward. And the reason for that is because I believe that when I help women build their brand, they are helping somebody else bring whatever it is that they have forward. And each of us is making this ripple effect in the world. And I will never take that lightly. And it humbles me every time because this is not something that I thought that I could do. And when people read my story now, or when they see me now, they're like, she's so confident. She does this, she does that, but they're looking at the middle of the story. They're not looking at the beginning. So my chapter is about that beginning and how to find your authentic voice in your own business.
Beautiful. And Lexi, can you all share your chapters again? So your chapter name. So what was your chapter name again, Lexi?
From Struggle to Strength.
And can you give people a little view of what that looks like? Like, can you give us a little example of, or like a little synopsis of like what brought you to writing that chapter?
Mm-hmm. I feel like it was a culmination of my entire adult life because I talked about being a single mom and having to go through graduate school and support her, support me, go and get state assistance for while I was trying to just finish school, and then to moving to Las Vegas with her, and then kind of feeling like I was meant to do more than what I was doing with the kind of work I was with social work. And then kind of leading into 2020, I lost both my parents. And it was a very hard time to lose people because, as we all know, we couldn't gather together to do things. And so I felt really isolated and alone. And so I talked about how that kind of cemented for me that as a group, we can do a lot better than just trying to do things on our own.
Wow, that is beautiful. Thank you. So, well, not the whole story of it is beautiful, but the ending and what you have uncovered from it, I think that's almost what many of you are sharing, is that life, it can be so dirty and so messy, but then as soon as you know it, you look over and it's just a diamond glimmering there, just needing to be brushed off a little bit, which I think is sounding like so many of your beautiful stories. And what about you, Kat? Give us a little bit of a synopsis or summary of your chapter. What can readers be, excited for to read?
So I talk a lot about my story when I'm speaking on stages, with what I do for work and how I work with women. But this was a deep dive into my personal story of utilizing. At the time, I didn't realize I was going to be utilizing my rock bottom as a place to jump off from. And really, it was either I could choose one way or the other, and one would have been hiding, and the other would have been showing up. Um, as a failure, as all of these things flawed, but still feeling like I still had something to give. And so I chose that route and started to share my story. And that became the foundation of my business. And my chapter really gives light to shining the light on our darkest times and our lowest moments and finding the strength, because we all have it in us, to bounce back and to be resilient and not just and if you have it in you, not to say that you have to do this if you've gone through something, but if you have it in you to share that story so that it inspires and empower others, that's what my chapter is all about. It's about if you do, not to say you have to, but if you do and you feel a calling deep inside you to want to help people who may be walking the same route or going through the same journey in some shape or form, not exactly have to be the same thing, and give them inspiration, empowerment, and transformation. That's what my chapter is about, is showing up as who you are, flaws and all.
Beautiful. I love these. And Jeanette, go ahead.
I think this is a great question. I think, just to sum it up, my story and the feedback that I've gotten from our wonderful launch team, because they've provided so many great insights, is that I didn't know it at the time, but they all described it as resilience. And for me, it was like literal survival. And I just had to go from one moment to the next. And it was a school of life, right? The plan was to graduate university, the blueprint. But I graduated in motherhood instead, at a very young age. And I thought, I really didn't think ahead, right? At all. I thought maybe 1 month ahead. And my story really is about understanding that it's not about the circumstances that you're in. We've heard that before, but I really lived it. And that regardless of where you started, you can end up in a place that you've never dreamed of. And I said this today in my post that I posted today. My 16-year-old self would never have believed that the 52-year-old could be here. Never.
Beautiful. Celebrating all of you. And Ati, what about you? Give readers a little glimpse into what they're going to be reading in Ati's chapter.
Love that. So for me, one of the questions that I get asked all the time when people are like, I want to build a personal brand, or I started my business, I'm putting myself out there in social media, or I'm networking, is how do people talk about authenticity so much. And I don't think that anybody thinks that they're not authentic. But then when they start pouring into their content or start talking about why they're doing what they're doing, they get stuck and they don't really know what to say. And my chapter is about digging into the questions that people can ask themselves to truly run a business from a place of authenticity. How do you bring more of who you are into what you do, right? Once you already decided you are a heart-led woman, you want to do something that is your passion, how do you keep bringing more of who you are into what you do? So while I tell a little bit of my story and all the limiting beliefs that I encountered when I left my bartending job. Guys, I saw myself as a bartender. I did not see myself as a businesswoman. I did not see myself as a leader in any way, shape, or form. even 7 years ago. So all that growth and what we have been able to create, and when I say we, is I don't think that any of this is just me. It's me because I am helping other women be more of who they are. So my whole chapter is about that journey with a workbook and everything for them to be able to ask themselves the questions.
Beautiful. And I'm wondering, as so many of you are explaining these stories that you shared, I have a two-parter. A, is this the first time that you sat down to write these things out? And B, what was that process like of truly alchemizing likely decades worth of pain, right? Triumph, but also right resilience, and moving forward with your lives past some of the hardest times that you probably never imagined that you could achieve or that you could live past. So what was it like writing this, and what did it feel like as you were sharing it for the first time? Or is this the second or the third or the fourth time that you've shared this?
Who goes first?
Whoever wants to.
I'm
Go
like,
ahead.
I don't know.
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
I think what really helped, so connecting the dots was really a challenge. If I'm being honest, and this is my first book. Like, it's crazy. It's my first book. And connecting the dots was probably the hardest because I wanted my story out there, but I also wanted to make sure that there was a cohesiveness. And you don't have to share every single detail. So connecting those dots was really challenging for me. I mean, thank goodness that we had Miss Kat, to sort of guide us on helping us craft this story, with impact. So I think connecting the dots was the hardest. And the second hardest was like really putting it out there. Like when Ati said the manuscript is ready, I literally out loud, I'm by myself here, I said, oh no. I said, oh no. But it was sort of like, I don't know what it was, but that's my first reaction. And even in the introduction, Kat, you did great. I can't even use it as part of my introduction. So that I have to get used to.
Now you have to practice that.
I know, Ati's always reminding me, and she's like, and best-selling author. I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yes. Okay. Did you want to go next, Lexi?
Yeah, I can go next. For me, I really wasn't sure what I was going to write about when I first started. And so I did a lot of kind of brain dumping different things. And then like Jeanette was saying, with Kat's help, it was like, oh, look, these things are actually very similar. Mm-hmm. And I did not realize the similarities that I had in there. So it was actually really kind of hard to write parts of it. I went back through, I journal a lot. And so I was going through some of my old journals and I was thinking, oh, wow, I can't believe that's how I thought and felt then. And then remembering it and writing it all down, it was a bit of a process.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you for sharing. Kat, you want to go?
Sure. So my story has been shared and published. This is the first time I've actually just sat down and wrote it out myself. So it's been published before through interviews and through that. So this is the first time that I've done that. So I will say that I speak often. I don't write often. And so I always say there's a reason why I'm a speaker versus a writer. I'm an overthinker. So I try to figure out which parts of my story, because there's so much happening and there's so much that has happened. And I'm trying to figure out which parts made sense for me to write and which parts do I not dive into, because I felt like every part needed to be explored. But the other part of that is there are a lot of people who know the overview of my story, of the things that I talk about, the highlights, I guess you could say, the bullet points of my story. And I dove into the details of each of those bullet points. And so I will say that my family is in town from England, and my sister-in-law, she read it and she cried. After she read the manuscript, and I get that reaction only because I think from an audience standpoint, people read my story or listen to my story and think about theirs. So, you know, they dive, and that's my objection. That is my goal is for them to not, you know, dive into my story, but dive into theirs. But it's a little different to see it up close and personal when someone is reading it, and after they read it, you know, because now I have like fully opened it, and inviting people in to see, you know, to see all the details. And so it was really cathartic. And the road here was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be, because I talk about it all the time. But sitting down and writing it was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. But I'm overjoyed at the outcome. I'm overjoyed that it's out there, and I'm overjoyed that people who wanted to know some of the details that I really can't share on stage because I don't have that much time, are now able to read it.
Beautiful. And Ati, what about you?
So I'm telling you, I'm sitting here in awe, because one of the things that I keep thinking is this was just an idea less than a year ago, and the book is live. And that comes with perseverance. There was a lot of times I didn't really even know. I'm being 100%. I'm so like emotional right now. Like there were moments throughout the process, even the technical part, right? Like the book, the publishing, there were so many things that I didn't know, and I just allowed myself to just take the next step. And this is a lot of what I teach, and this is a lot of what I tell people. Just take the next step, and the book is a reality, right? So for me, I'm going to say this is the second book that I'm in. And the reason why I did this is because the first one was also so cathartic for me. And I feel like the story that I wrote this time was like more thought out, more what I wanted people to actually get out of it. I think the first run around, I needed to get my story out. And that's actually, I'm gonna quote Janet, is I kind of like I connected the dots on that first chapter that I ever wrote on leaving a legacy. And then when we started writing this book, I was so intentional about what I wanted people to get out of it. And I can see how every single one of us can take what the work that we've done so far with these chapters and keep going and maybe write their own book and maybe go deeper. And this is something that for me is so important about this book and any books that I ever facilitate, is that it's not the finish line, but today is the starting point.
I love that you ended with that, because that was going to be a lineup to my next question of, now that this is something that you ladies have under your belt, I'm wondering, A, what you feel like the long-term impact of your story out there is going to be, but also if you have another woman who you intro yourself and you say, I'm a best-selling author, you know, purchase my book. And if she tells you I could never do that, you know, I could never get my story out there, and I don't really think anyone even want to really hear it, and I'm not really all that put together, and I'm not perfect, and why would they ever care about my story? Now that you ladies are on the other side of that, you know, have you ever felt that way? What kind of impact is your story going to have out there? And what would you say to the woman who says, I don't know, I'd love to, but that's a dream of mine, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that?
Lexi, do you want to go?
You want me to go? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you're so quiet there in the corner. So I want,
all the pressure.
Introvert of the group.
I am the super introvert. So I would say that my chapter is about being able to like get out there and do it, even though you thought, you know, that you couldn't do something. So I've thought about the impact a little bit, and what I hope comes from it is that people will hear that they're not alone in these struggles, because especially women, we keep a lot of stuff inside and don't talk about some of the challenges and the mental health struggles and the mindset struggles that we're going through. And then when you start getting like close and intimate with another woman and you hear that we have all the similarities, then you realize that you actually aren't alone in all of it.
Never. Yeah.
I love it. And what would you say to the woman that's telling you, Lexi, I love that you're a best-selling author, but that really couldn't be me?
I would say, why? Why?
The
Let's explore
therapist
that.
interrupt. Why? Tell me more.
Tell me more about your thought there.
Beautiful. Thank you. Kat, you want to go next?
Sure. So what I do kind of on a daily basis is to encourage women to share their story in any platform. So whether that is on their, on their own socials, on their own platforms, podcasting, speaking on stages. And this one was kind of a big jump for me, because writing wasn't, again, it's not something that I'm used to doing, or I've ever thought, or I've actually always said that I was going to write one day. And I have to give props to Ati for bringing that into fruition, because the one day came sooner than I expected. And it's here. And then also I will say that with this brought on the other part, the second part of, of now being a columnist as well. So, now, I've gone from no writing to just now I'm constantly writing. So to anyone out there that says that, one, what I often hear is that, my story doesn't matter. My story isn't that exciting. And I'm always encouraging people to say, your story is encouraging. We just have to dive into it. And even if it's just encouraging and inspiring and empowering and transformational for just one person, that's one person who's going to know that person, and someone's going to know her. And it's like, and it just goes and it continues and it snowballs. So for anyone out there that has this thought in their mind, and actually I read a comment on Instagram just this morning about someone that I knew that said, Kat, you have been talking about writing a book, and here it is. And I was like, oh my God, yes, we have been talking about writing a book for many years, and here it is. So the seed was planted a long time ago, and Ati allowed me to let it bloom. So it does happen. It can happen. And you're looking at those that have made it happen. And and so if that is an encouragement for all of us here that says this was never even a thought, we didn't even know how, like, this is proof.
Yeah. Oh my God. So Annie was actually waiting. I couldn't see her come in. So if we can let her introduce herself and all the things.
Of course. Hey, Annie, congratulations. So we are just going around answering a few questions here. So if you want to share right? What do you do? Where do you live? What's the title of your book? And the question that they're currently answering is along the lines of, what do you think the long-term impact of you sharing your story is going to be? But if you could start with your intro, that would be great.
Yeah, you asked a lot of questions in there, so I'm going to try to remember all of that. My name is Annie Mirza, and I am a business coach for accountants. I do a lot of things, but mainly that's my jam. And I live in Reno, Nevada. And what was the other thing?
The title of your chapter.
The title of my chapter is A Moment in Time. And my impact, I guess, what I wanted the readers to take away from my chapter is I live a very intentional life. Like, every word that I utter, every action that I take, I try to be very intentional about it, because I have seen over the years in my life that how others impacted me, even strangers, and how I have impacted other people. And I've seen changes in people. And to those, like you were talking about earlier, about where somebody comes to say, and I always wanted to write a book, I don't think I can do it. What I would say to that is that especially women, we tend to do more for other people than we do for ourselves. So if you have this thought, first of all, writing a book, whether no matter how tragic your life was or how calm and content your life was, doesn't matter your journey. When you write a book, you are going to learn so much more about yourself, and it's going to empower you, and is going to um, allow you to heal. We all have wounds, we all have scars, right? It allows us to come out of it on the other side and see ourselves in a better light, because it's a very cathartic process. Second part I would say is, as women, we do more for others rather than for ourselves. And when you write a book and you publish it or share it with some other people, that means you are sharing whatever it is in your heart, in your soul, with the other people in the world. And you're allowing other people to be able to heal from that process as well. Because not only you're giving them courage that, oh, if this person can do it, so can I.
Yeah.
Right? You create that possibility. And just being around in your circle, like I've seen people change just being in the circle, right? And if that's the case, reading a book can have a huge impact. Like we all read books, right? Whenever like there's something that I'm struggling with in business or whatever, I'm like, okay, well, what's the first thing that comes to mind is what book is on this topic, and I want to read that. So definitely books can have that impact, but personal stories are even more powerful. And if you think that you can do it, you don't have it in you, first it's going to be a healing process. Second, it's going to impact people that you may never know. You may never know or find out, but know that it will happen. It's bound to happen. That's how the nature of life is, you know? So that's what I truly believe.
Beautiful. Thank you, Annie. Also, not you pretending like you wouldn't be able to answer all the questions and then answering them all beautifully and then some. I'm like, she's got notes right there. What is she talking about?
I didn't even know we're doing this today. So,
Jeanette, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah. The impact that I'd want, I think the impact, I always say that I became that someone, or I became that someone that I wish I had when I was growing up in corporate, right? And that's where this passion of mine of helping women specifically really started. And I help women all the time in my business with overcoming barriers. And a lot of the barriers really are a lot of mindset. I know, because I had all of them. So I knew, I guide them in this way. And just to touch on what Annie said in terms of women, somehow women just don't think they're capable. I mean, we are super with all the things we do and all the roles that the roles that I'm talking about that we do, we still don't think that we're capable. And so that is what I want the impact to be, that no matter what the story is, whether you've had a great life and you just need to shift, or it wasn't so great and you've overcome everything, you are capable of doing this. And to touch on what Alexa said is, in addition to the why, I would say, why not? If not you, who else is how else are we gonna hear your story, right? So that's what I would say. And I think I've caught the book bug. That's all I'm gonna say.
Beautiful.
I mentioned it to Kat a little bit, and my friends who sort of know me a little bit, they're like, oh, you need to do that book. That book that you've always talked about. So I don't know. Thank you, Ati, for really, you've opened the door that I didn't realize that I needed to walk through. So thank you so much for that.
And that is my mission in life. That is my mission.
Beautiful. I love this. And I love the way that you ended it right. Well, why not you? And if not you, then who? Because so many women that I've talked to, when it comes to sharing your story, we have to almost think, I know that women already are very unselfish, right? We're very selfless. But in this case, also being, yes, selfish in order to take up the space to do it and invest in ourselves, but a little selfless and understanding that what if our story is something that can heal and help the generations after us, right? The legacy that we're leading. And what if your granddaughter gets to read it? What if your great, great, great granddaughter gets to read it? What if a cousin, too attached gets to read it and gets inspired and says, well, someone that looks like me, someone that is me, right? We're from the same bloodline. If she did it, why can't I? And giving women the green light, like only green lights from here. Share the legacy, spread the seeds, give people the inspiration that their story can change the world, because it does, and it already has. And Ati, I would love for you to start us all off as we wrap up in maybe a few words or a sentence that you'd like to give to the individuals who are going to read this book.
Your story holds the power to the change you want to see in the world. I think that one of the biggest transformations for me has been allowing every part of me, the good, the bad, the ugly, the parts that I don't love so much about me, because it's so easy to talk about the things that we like about ourselves, but it's actually digging in the things that I didn't love, the parts of the story that, and this is not just about telling it, but like me looking at that part of the story and see how can you grow from there. And that is how these questions that I pose in the book personally, but even to the authors, as we were going through these, a lot of them went through doubt, right? Like for me, listening to Kat, who's a storytelling coach, say how hard was for her to actually put it on paper when, like, because it's easy for us to do it with somebody else. But when we do it for ourselves, we actually need to look at the shadows. We need to look at the fears. We need to look at the parts that usually we are trying to run away from. There was so many times that I was in fear. I was the leader of this group. And there were so many times that I had to check in myself, because you need to lead from a place of confidence. So I had to do the work to lead, right? But at the same time, I was an author. So there were so many intricate parts. And I think that for me, I actually never in a million years thought that I wanted to write a book until that opportunity was presented to me. That was so cathartic, and being able to do this for other women. And I don't say this lightly when I think that our collective mission is impacting 1,000 women to want to tell their stories, because I don't think that it's just about telling the story. It's about digging into our stories and what we become on the other side.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ati. Jeanette, do you want to go next? What's one sentence that you have for the person that's going to read this book or has read this book?
I think that the person who's going to read our stories, they can't help but be inspired. And whether it's to do a side hustle, whether it's whatever goal they want to achieve, it is achievable. And I think that I don't know why as women, it's hard to invest in ourselves. Going back to what you said earlier, Gabby, it's hard to invest in ourselves. But I tell you what, becoming an entrepreneur has given me, like, it was in my face, like, look, you got to answer some questions. Otherwise, this thing that you've started, it's not going to go through. And I went through it. I went through the fire. Ati's my coach. She knows. And it just made me this person that I am today. Now I want to make everyone an entrepreneur. I'm like convincing them. But so that's what I want them to get out of it. I want them to know that it's the capability that you are, whatever you want to do, you can.
Beautiful. Kat, what about you?
I think basically along the same exact lines, because I think when you read our book, because you're all going to read the book, right? Yeah. You'll see there is a running theme in all of it, and that is our stories really do become our superpowers, and it is that power, and it's that ignites all the things that we then pursue in life, whether that is entrepreneurship, whether that is, starting a family, whether that is climbing up the corporate, whatever that is, a side hustle, whatever, or a hobby, whatever it may be. I believe that our stories will get us to where that place is if we own it, if we are honest with it, if we are truthful and open. I will tell you that when I wrote this, there were parts of this where I was like, do I mention that I failed, in those first few years as an entrepreneur? Yeah, I do. I have to, because that is part of the story. It would be unfair and unjust if I just said I started my business and here we are. No, it was a long, hard fought road, and I made a lot of mistake, and I felt like I needed to actually put that in the book, that I didn't hold up to my end of the bargain, that I made some crucial mistakes, that I let people down in the very beginning of my entrepreneurship. And because that's the honest truth, because the people that may read that may be the people that I disappointed early on in my career, and they would be like, girl, this ain't true. It ain't true. And I have to hold the mirror up to me. And I think, but when we do that, it allows me to share right here, right now, that, yeah, I screwed up enormously. But I learned, and we're resilient, and we bounce back, and we learn from it, and then we teach others. And that is how this goes.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kat. And Annie, what about you? What's one sentence to the person who's thinking about reading this, going to read it, or has already read it?
Yeah, I mean, I think in my chapter, I start with that line of like, I hope that you receive in this book, in this story, whatever you need to receive in that moment. But what I will add to that is, if I'm sure that a lot of entrepreneurial friends would be reading this, and mostly women, what I will say is that the point of this whole book is be you brand, right? It's be you. And what I notice a lot in business world, in entrepreneurship, especially with women, is that we have our own demons. And when we're having a conversation with a client, or we're talking a sales call with the lead or whatever, all these things pop up in our mind that we're not fully aware of. And what I will say to them is that reading these stories, you will realize that we are creating these businesses through how we've been shaped by the moments that have defined us. And the same goes for you. And the more you can be honest about who you are and just be yourself, don't let the outside world, the outside noise dim your light. Because that's what happened to me. I thought that, all these things that were happening to me, because I'm an empath and I absorb other people's energies. And I'm also very strict on like right and wrong. There's no gray area for me. And I was raised that way. And if you read my story, you'll know that. But I thought that all of this world that was like coming at me, it was like somehow I was the wrong person. And after many, many years of going through depression and all of these things, my psychologist, she said this one thing to me, and it changed my life. And she said that what you're saying is not wrong. Other people that are behaving this way, they are the one that are in the wrong, and you have to be okay with that. And when she said that, I was like, oh my God, like all this time I thought that I was the one who was doing something that wasn't right or whatever. And I was putting myself down. It was such a heavy weight that I couldn't get out of it. And so a lot of times as women, we feel the pressure from the outside world. We have to do this, we have to do that. No, you have to do what feels right to you. You have to listen to yourself. You have to listen to your body. Because your body is telling you a lot of things too. When your emotions are like getting jammed into your whole being, your body will have a reaction. You will get sick. You will get headaches. You will get paralyzed. You will get so many reactions. And so listening to yourself and being truly who you are and what your values are, what your integrity is, all of those things, you need to have that at the core, at the front of everything. Because sometimes we need to make the money, but it's when you make it truly authentically being yourself, you will attract the right people, and you will also get there faster where you want to get to, right? So not a one sentence, but that's what I want people to
None
take.
of us was able to do the one sentence thing. I set up the wrong example there.
It's a runaway train, but it's going in the right direction. That's all that matters. So as we wrap up, I would love for you each to maybe just share your name, your title again, and where people can find you when they watch this replay or they're watching live. Where can they follow you to see more of the transformation post this book? And then we'll all
Wrap
do
it
a
up.
round of applause, and Ati will wrap it up. Annie, do you want to kick us off? So just let us know your name again, the chapter of your title, and where people can find you.
Sure. Yeah, Annie Mirza, and my chapter of my title is A Moment in Time. And you can find me anywhere, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I'm Annie Mirza CPA, and my website is sensus.social, sensus.social.
Perfect. Thank you. Kat, you want to go?
Yes, Kat Coley. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm at The Real Kat Coley, CATCOLEY. My website is katcoley.com, and my chapter is called Unscripted: Finding Beauty in the Mess.
Beautiful. Jeanette?
Yes. So the title of my chapter is Unlikely. And on LinkedIn, I'm Jeanette Sefri, and that's CEF as in Frank, RE. And then on Instagram, it's a bit different. It's Congage, CONN_GAGE. You know, nothing tough and all. But that's on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Ati, you want to share and then wrap us up?
Yes, Ati Greenspan. You can find me at ati.g.branding, my website, atigreenspan.com. And to say that I am grateful, I am celebrating every single one of us, and also our two authors that couldn't join today. If you want to support our mission, head to the link in the comments. The book link is there. It's 99 cents for the ebook. The actual hard book copy will be available super soon. All proceeds go to Dress for Success. So if you love, you would love to support us and also do something good, purchase the book. Give us a 5-star review. We have big goals for this visibility, for helping other women to really step into their full power. And we love that you joined us today.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
And
ladies.
we all thank Gabby for being the
Yes.
best friend and moderator. And yay!
Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Everybody.
Bye.
Bye.